I've had a request to share this book, Poetry from A to Z, A Guide for Young Writers, by Paul B. Janesco. It is a book that he compiled all together that has lots of different poetry in it, but also teaches tools for writing. So I'm going to go ahead and share this book with you today. Poetry from A to Z, A Guide for Young Writers is a book that I picked up on Amazon. Now, as you can see, it used to belong to a library. It still kind of has that plastic packaging and all that, but you obviously do not have to buy it this way. You can purchase it brand new from Amazon. I'll have it linked to in my description box for you to check out. So like I said, this book was compiled by the author, and inside it goes through all these different types of writing styles. And as the title tells you, it goes from A to Z. So the contents has an introduction, and then it starts with the letter A, which includes a poem called Autumn Beat by Monica Culling, and then it teaches you how to do an acrostic poem. Then you go to B, and it has the poem Bird Watcher, and it teaches you to do a blessing or prayer poem. And then it goes on to have actually a few more poems as well. Then you go to C, and it teaches you another poem, or another style, actually two styles, along with a few poems. It follows this throughout the entire book. I'll show you the rest of the table of contents. And every single letter of the alphabet, has a different type of poem, except for a few at the end, where there are no styles, but they do have different poems that you can at least read. Then it has a section for further reading, acknowledgments, and an index. And as you can see, I have labeled this book a lot because we have used it within our homeschool. So the introduction is just a couple of pages that you can read before you begin the book. And then it starts at the very beginning, which is A. So they give you this poem, Autumn Beat, and then they tell you to try an acrostic poem. And I had my children do their names. I had them do acrostic poems with their names. And this was basically like our week one. Since there are more weeks in the school year than there are letters in the alphabet, you can easily use this to kind of do an entire poetry writing curriculum for a year. And then at the end, when you have some extra weeks, you can have them maybe make a big project or do a poster or something like that to make a culmination of everything that they have learned throughout the book. So here is B, and there's a poem that starts with B. There's actually a quote here from the poet as well. Then they have a blessing poem, and then they have an example of what a blessing poem is. You see here it explains how to actually write that blessing poem. Then they have another poem here. This one's by Gwendolyn Brooks, and it starts with the letter B. And then there's also a quote, which is, it's really nice. It says, "Be yourself, do not imitate other poets. You are as important as they are." Which I think that's really inspiring, especially at the very beginning of this book, to have that, because so many children will feel like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not a good poet. I don't know how to write a poem. But all of us can be poets. We can all try our best. And I think that's just really inspiring. So then you can see we go on to the letter C, and I've obviously marked up my book because we've used it throughout the year, but it just follows this same style where there's poems that start with the letter C or have the letter C in them, and then there's different types of poems that you can write. And like I said, there are some sections of the book that don't have any type of poem that goes with them. So you can see P does, it has a persona poem, but you get to Q and there isn't anything. I don't think there's nothing for R either. So there's certain weeks where there won't actually be a type of poem that you can do. But it's still good to kind of go through and read everything in this book just so your kids are exposed to different types of poetry and different poets. And then at the back here, there is a section for further reading, which is really helpful, especially if you find that one of your children really has an aptitude for poetry or just really enjoys it. I mean, here's some great options for further reading. And then at the very back is an index where you can find all the different types and then different, oh, here's a cool part, different advice from poets. You can read their quotes and different advice that they give. And it's just really helpful to have everything kind of all organized for you at the back in the index. And on the very back of the book, it says, you can't write without reading, so read everything you can find by writers whose work you love. Don't be afraid to imitate them if you want to. Eventually, you will come to sound not like them anymore, but like yourself. And that's really true, because one of the best ways to learn writing is by copying the masters. I mean, that kind of applies to anything, but especially in writing. So there you go. That is Poetry A to Z, a guide for young writers. It's a very good book, honestly. I think you could completely use this as a curriculum for teaching poetry. It would only take you a year. And if you kind of combined everything, you could do it in just a semester. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy these types of book reviews or curriculum reviews, please subscribe to my channel. Have a great day.